Hello, you. It's me. Today we're going to talk about recent release, debut novel by Julia Armfield, Our Wives Under the Sea. I'm a huge fan of Julia Armfield's previous work. They put out a short story collection called Salt Slow, which I maintain is one of the best short story collections I've ever read. So going into this, I had pretty high hopes, and I don't think I was disappointed. I'm going to do plot review, stuff I liked and stuff I didn't is going to be kind of mixed in for this one. There'll be a couple of bits marked on the time bar, not a lot, but feel free to click around as usual. In this book, we follow a married couple, Miri and Lee. Lee is a deep sea researcher who is whisked away on an important trip. Weeks go by with no contact, weeks turn to months. And then she returns home after a submarine accident, closed off and very different, slowly becoming something that Miri doesn't recognize as the person she loved before. The deep ocean occupies Lee's every waking moment as she slowly loses touch with reality, her wife, and Miri desperately tries to hold their marriage together and reawaken the woman she loves while attempting to figure out what the hell happened down there in the dark. The story is told along two timelines. The first, where Miri slowly tries to make sense of what is going on and watches Lee slowly pull away from her, not wanting to leave the bath, drinking salt water, becoming despondent, unresponsive, and far away, as Miri recalls their past together, their personal mythology, as Julia Armfield calls it. In the other storyline, we are trapped with Lee on the ocean floor as the events in the submarine unfold. This is happening months before, in a claustrophobic environment in the pitch black, as strange, unexplainable noises sound on the outside hull of the submarine far, far below where anything should be able to survive. I think a lot of people would describe this as literary fiction, which is a term I hate, but because it's so focused on character development and character exploration and interpersonal relationships, instead of being a story that is about the background it's told against. In terms of other literature, the impressionistic and often flowery descriptions felt very Angela Carter. But weirdly, because of its focus on slow, graceful senescence, the thing that this actually reminded me the most of was a non-fiction sort of romantic biology account called The Soul of an Octopus by Cy Montgomery. Also, if you enjoyed this as much as I did, go and watch a 1989 film called The Abyss, because it shares a lot of similar themes and tropes, and it is amazing. One of my all-time favourite films. With this being more along the lines of something contemporary, I think some people might expect that the horror elements are left dubious or debatable and never actually explicitly mentioned or brought to the forefront of the story. But the way this book slowly, more and more and more, had this eldritch cosmic horror creeping in, I thought was amazing. This book talks about how personal love is. That's one of the main themes. How inaccessible your love is to anybody outside of that love. Miri does her best to explain her love of Lee through flashbacks, and at the same time is experiencing that shutout as Lee describes her love of the ocean. So at the same time, we have these two sets of descriptives about love that honestly are beautiful and detailed enough that you could easily fall in love with both. I wonder if this book is actually about how closed off somebody becomes to the person that loves them when that person realizes that their love is somewhere else. But the metaphor in this book is rich. It could be a number of different things. It could be simple. It could be entirely about death and about how, despite everything, the darkness of the ocean is a metaphor for the unknowable soul of anyone other than yourself, the opaque heart of a stranger, and how we all really die alone in the end. Could it be a metaphor for how trauma changes people? How a huge personality shift can be like somebody dying, and then having to understand that you can't hold that person responsible for those changes, for what trauma did to them. There's a really beautiful passage in this book about the thin line between water and air, between sea and shore, the almost non-existent place where the ocean sublimes into the sky. I think all of these metaphors are definitely there on purpose, but I think on top of them, the one that jumped out at me the most was the very, very thin line between grief and selfishness. And I think this book, at its core, is about letting go. One thing I think this book really deserves extra props for is that you do not often see queer relationships that are established, that are strong, that are loving, that are outside of the falling in love stage. Most will be about characters falling in love and then they get together at the end of the book, or the book is about their search for identity or search for love. It's amazing to see two women who, at least at the start of the book, have a functional, stable marriage. And their journeys are journeys of self and not journeys of romance. Both women are going through very personal battles outside of their struggle together. And they're both well written, human, believable people. It's nice for a relationship to be central to a book, and for that book to not be a romance novel. I've read a couple of reviews from people who I think didn't particularly enjoy this, and I think part of it is this having been marketed as a supernatural horror story, and maybe those people expecting something very different going into it, sort of like what happened with Crimson Peak. Firstly, don't expect something happy. This is first and foremost a tragic story. It's cold, removed, downbeat, and beautiful despite that. And don't go in expecting a story as such. The story has already happened. These are the consequences. This is a novel of slow, quiet aftermath that feels like the struggling, desperate, clawing attempt to hold on to the remnants of a dream minutes after you wake up. I read this in the space of a few days. Honestly, I can't stop thinking about it. It's been weeks now. As somebody who is also in love with the ocean in all of its dark mystery, I know this book, in the best possible way, will haunt me for a long time. So thanks for watching my review. If you like sci-fi, don't forget to join our Sci-Fi Interstellar book club. That'll be linked down below. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Goodreads. That's linked down below as well. We're also doing Stephen King read-along this year, so the Discord for that will be linked down there as well. And I'll see you soon for the next review. Bye.